If I hadn't forgotten my phone charger that morning, I might have kept living a lie for the rest of my life. I was just stopping by. That's all it was supposed to be. It was a Sunday morning. I had a client meeting downtown in an hour, and I realized I left my phone charger at my parents' house. No big deal. I'd swing by, grab it from my old room, and be out in 5 minutes. That's what I told myself. I hadn't planned on staying long. I hadn't planned on seeing anyone. Definitely not them. My parents still lived in the same 2-story house in the suburbs of Portland. Quiet street, trimmed lawns, white mailboxes. The kind of neighborhood where everyone waves but no one really knows each other. I parked across the street and jogged up the walkway. Their front door was open. Not unusual. My mom liked letting fresh air in. I stepped inside without knocking. Again, not weird. It was home. At least, it used to be. But the second I walked into the house, something felt off. There were balloons, streamers, the faint sound of music coming from the backyard, and voices. A lot of voices. I paused in the hallway, confused. I hadn't heard about any party. Tyler. I turned. It was my mom. She looked shocked and nervous. "What are you doing here?" she asked, clutching a glass of champagne like she'd been caught doing something wrong. I held up my phone. Forgot my charger. She glanced toward the backyard and then back at me. You probably shouldn't." Too late. I heard my brother's voice. Loud, confident, dramatic. I stepped out onto the deck just in time to hear him say, "You were always the one for me. Will you marry me?" And there she was. Rachel, my ex. Smiling, crying, nodding. Saying yes. To my brother. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Time felt like it snapped in half. I stood there, on the edge of the deck, frozen. I wasn't even sure they saw me at first. The crowd around them cheered. Phones were out. There were flashes. Applause. My brother dropped to one knee, the classic move, and she covered her mouth like this was the moment she'd dreamed of. Except I knew for a fact it wasn't. Rachel and I had dated for 4 years. We talked about marriage, about kids, about a house in Seattle with a garden and 2 rescue dogs. I'd even picked out a ring. It wasn't flashy, but it was hers. She never got to see it, though. She left me 6 months ago. No real explanation. Just said she needed space. That things had shifted. I thought maybe she was overwhelmed. I gave her time. I held back the urge to chase answers. I wanted to believe she was just confused. Turns out she wasn't confused. She was busy. My brother, Nate, finally looked up. Our eyes locked. He froze. Rachel turned, saw me, and in one instant, her smile died. Like a switch flipped behind her eyes. Nate stood, brushing off his pants. "Tyler," he said, voice tight. "Didn't know you'd be here." "Yeah," I said. "Didn't know I should be." No one knew what to say. My mom appeared beside me, whispering, "Please don't make a scene. This day isn't about you." I laughed. Actually laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because the absurdity of it all hit me like a wave. My mom had known. Probably my dad too. They'd all kept this from me. Rachel was still staring at me. No apology. No guilt. Just blankness. Like I'd become a ghost in her story. I looked down at the ring on her hand. It looked a lot like the one I'd picked out months ago. "Congratulations," I said quietly. "Guess you didn't need that space after all." Then I turned and walked back through the house, past the champagne glasses and polite lies. The door slammed shut behind me. I didn't cry in the car. I just sat there, staring at the steering wheel. And somewhere between my heartbeat and the silence, I realized this wasn't betrayal. This was a decision. I didn't drive away right away. I just sat there, gripping the wheel, feeling the air thicken around me. You know those moments where everything in your life suddenly feels staged? Where you start retracing every step, every word, trying to see what you missed. That was me. Sitting in my car in front of my childhood home while my brother proposed to the woman I once thought I'd spend forever with. How long had it been going on? 6 months? A year? Did she start slipping away from me the moment she started looking at him? I thought about our last Thanksgiving. Rachel was quiet that day. Said she had a headache. Nate had been the one cracking jokes at the table, refilling her wine glass, asking about her job. Had it already started by then? My fingers curled tighter on the steering wheel. It wasn't just Rachel who betrayed me. It was Nate. And it was my family too. No one told me. Not even a warning. I wasn't just excluded. I was erased. A soft knock on my window made me jump. It was my dad. He leaned down, squinting in the sunlight. "Can we talk?" I rolled the window down halfway. I didn't know you were stopping by, he said. Yeah, that makes two of us. He sighed. I know this probably feels hard. I stared at him. Hard? Like someone forgetting your birthday? Missing your graduation? No, this felt like being pushed off a cliff and watching everyone you love turn away before you hit the ground. You knew? I asked. He hesitated. We weren't sure how serious they were at first. So you just waited to let me find out at their engagement? He looked away, jaw tightening. It's not that simple. It is, actually, I said. You chose not to tell me. All of you did. There was a long silence. Then he nodded, like that small movement would cover the weight of what they'd done. I rolled the window back up. He tapped the glass once, then walked away. And I sat there, again, staring out at the house that no longer felt like mine, trying to remember when exactly I stopped being part of the family. That night, I didn't sleep. Not a minute. I lay in bed with the ceiling fan spinning above me, just thinking. There were no tears. No yelling. I wasn't broken. I was something worse, calm. Because when you've been blindsided like that, not just by one person, but by everyone you trusted, the first thing to die is your sense of reality. You start questioning if any of it was ever real. Was my relationship with Rachel genuine? Were the conversations with Nate ever honest? Did my parents ever see me, really see me, or was I just playing a role in someone else's story? I checked my messages that morning. Nothing. No missed calls. No texts. Not from Rachel. Not from Nate. Not even from my mom. It was like I never existed. Like I'd been written out of their lives months ago, and this was just the final scene. The next day, I went into work like nothing had happened. I smiled at clients, reviewed contracts, followed up on emails. Nobody knew anything was wrong. I didn't tell anyone. Not because I was ashamed, but because I didn't want pity. I didn't want, you'll find someone better speeches or empty nods. What I wanted was distance. So I gave it to myself. I muted every family group chat. Blocked Rachel on every platform. Nate too. Deleted their contact names. Kept the numbers. Just in case I ever needed to know who was calling when I chose not to answer. By Wednesday, it was like someone had taken a match to everything I used to be part of, and I wasn't even angry. I was just done. Sometimes, rock bottom isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It's quiet. A hallway without echoes. A dinner table with one plate. But in that silence, something else started to grow. Resolve. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to build. I stopped going to Sunday dinners. No text. No explanation. I didn't owe them one. A few weeks went by. Then a month. Then another. I think my mom called once, maybe twice, but I let it ring. No voicemail. No follow-up. Eventually, the call stopped. And honestly, it felt like a relief. I started filling my evenings with things I hadn't made time for in years. Not distractions, just space. I picked up an old sketchbook, started going for runs before sunrise, rearranged my apartment room by room until it felt like it belonged to me, not to the version of myself who once believed people would always stay loyal. Work became a focus. Not an obsession, just a steady rhythm I could control. I took on bigger clients, stayed late without anyone waiting at home. And I started saving. More than I ever had. I wasn't chasing anything. I was building a foundation. It was funny, in a way. The silence I used to dread now felt like a clean canvas. No more fake apologies. No awkward reunions. Just peace. Then one Friday afternoon, nearly 3 months after the proposal, I got an email. Subject line. Hope this isn't weird, but... It was Rachel. I didn't open it right away. In fact, I stared at it for a full hour before clicking. Not because I was afraid of what it said, but because I already knew. When I finally read it, the tone was exactly what I expected. Soft, casual, coated in nostalgia. She hoped I was doing well. She never meant to hurt anyone. She thought maybe we could talk. There was no mention of Nate. No mention of what they did. Just a polite little rewrite of history. I didn't reply. Instead, I archived it. Then I opened a blank document and began writing something I hadn't touched in years, a business plan. Something I'd sketched out long ago, but never followed through on. That night, I stayed up past midnight. Not angry. Not bitter. Just ready. I launched the company on a Tuesday. No fanfare. No ribbon cutting. Just me, a small rented office space, and a website that finally went live. I'd spent the last 3 months building it in silence, pouring every hour before and after work into designing something clean, efficient, and scalable. A service I knew filled a gap in the market. Within a week, the first few clients trickled in. By month 2, I had enough traction to leave my job. I gave my notice on a Friday, packed up my desk, walked out without looking back. That weekend, I bought myself a leather chair and a decent coffee machine, not because I needed them, but because they reminded me that I'd earned this. Every inch of it. Meanwhile, the emails kept coming. Not from Rachel. From Nate. The first one was short. "Hey, can we talk?" I didn't answer. 2 days later. I feel like things got twisted. I never meant for this to happen the way it did. That part made me laugh. The way what happened, exactly? Like someone tripped and fell into my girlfriend? I archived that one too. A week after that, he called. I let it ring. No voicemail. Then, silence. For a while, anyway. But it didn't matter. My focus was on the business, and it was growing fast. Faster than I'd expected. A few of my old colleagues reached out for freelance work. I hired 2 of them. I built a brand. A name. A story that didn't include Rachel or Nate, or any of the people who once couldn't be bothered to warn me what was coming. By the time fall rolled around, I had a full-time team, a waiting list of clients, and something I hadn't felt in a long time. Stability. Not the kind that someone gives you. The kind you build for yourself. One morning, I walked into a local coffee shop to meet a client, and I heard someone say my name. I turned around, and there she was. Rachel. Hair longer. Slightly thinner. No ring on her hand. She smiled like we were old friends. Like nothing had happened. "Tyler," she said. "Well, you look different." I smiled back, polite. "I am." We stood there in that coffee shop, 2 feet apart, but worlds away. Rachel tucked her hair behind her ear like she used to do when she wanted time to think. I could see the pause in her eyes, the flicker of surprise that I wasn't bitter or broken or even particularly moved. Because I wasn't. Not anymore. "So, how've you been?" she asked, tentative, like she wasn't sure what version of me she was talking to. I smiled. Not fake. Not cruel. Just real. "I've been good," I said. "Busy. Focused." "That's great," she said quickly, nodding too many times. "I saw the website, your company. It looks amazing." I thanked her. She hesitated again. Then, sometimes I think about how everything went down. I wish it had been different. There it was. Not regret. Not an apology. Just the soft rewriting of history people tell themselves when the consequences finally arrive. I didn't flinch. "I used to wish that too," I said. "But if it hadn't happened exactly like that, I wouldn't be here now." That was the truth. If they hadn't broken me down, I wouldn't have built this version of myself. She gave a small smile. Forced. Sad. "I guess some things aren't meant to be." "No," I said. "Some things just end. And that's okay." She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more. But I was already glancing at my watch. "I've got a meeting," I said gently. She nodded. "Of course." I turned to go. She called my name one last time, but I didn't stop. Not out of cruelty. Out of peace. Because the truth is, I didn't need closure from her. I already had it. It came in the form of long nights, early mornings, a rebuilt life, and a version of myself who didn't need anyone's permission to move forward. Some people leave quietly. Others get left behind. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you realize that silence isn't the end of a story. It's the start of your own.